go.
So I didn't know whether or not to expect a Dave joke, so I gave it a pause.
It's a B-side.
Okay, so we'll break with we'll break with tradition. Hi everybody, welcome to a rare figure action B-side. This is one that I've been really anticipated doing for a long time because Final Fantasy VII is one of my favorite games of all time. In fact, it's in the top 2 favorite games of all time for me. So having the remake, number 1 is Chrono Trigger.
Fair enough.
So Final Fantasy VII being my second favorite game of all time. So we're going to sit here tonight. We're going to have a discussion about the remake. Everyone here on the panel has either beat it or is right up to the very frickin' end and keeps beating their head against the wall trying to get past the last boss. So, hi, Dave. Yeah, that's Dave.
Right. So single me out. That's me.
That's you. You're there. You've tried. You've given it a good attempt. Jordan's playing through it right now. He's veered off into other games. So
as we speak, he's playing through it right now.
Probably as we speak. But T and I beat it. T's actually going to be the authority tonight because he's beat it 47 times in a row. He actually didn't sleep. So
he actually his hair didn't grow out. His hair didn't grow out because of lack of barber. His hair just because he just kept playing the game.
I was trying to go get the spiky look at first, but then I was like, eh.
You literally said what your shirt says and just said whatever. So there's no Transformers talk tonight, folks. This is all video games. So if you tune into our channel for the toys discussion, we'll talk about Final Fantasy toys, but not tonight. It's going to be all about the video game tonight. So if you are playing, have played, or think about playing it, this is a good conversation for you. We are going to talk about spoilers, but that won't be until later. We're going to keep it spoiler-free in the beginning. And then when we transition, I'm going to put this warning at the bottom. So when you click on and you see this warning, I'll keep it scrolled the whole time that we're having a spoiler discussion, and you'll know and be forewarned. But until then, it's gone and spoiler free. We're not going to talk about anything that wasn't in the trailers or gameplay stuff that you wouldn't have already known from watching a review here or there. I also want to keep, if you remember the details of the original game, the story thus far after the fact, we're going to try to keep spoiler talk to a minimum for the original game as well, for people that want to jump into it with a fresh.
For those of you under 30?
I don't know when. I can't remember. I was going to look up and see when the original game came out, but damn if I can remember.
96, 95, 96?
Yeah, something like that. So joining me tonight is a true Starscream.
Hi. I'm exhausted.
There we go. Also joining me tonight is T-Man978.
Yes.
T-Man is you wouldn't know from his channel, but T-Man is an affluent gamer. He games constantly. When he's not doing toy reviews, he's gaming constantly.
Though you wouldn't think he was playing a PlayStation.
T-Man is 100% into Nintendo games, while Dave has heard of Nintendo, but is not really...
It's a thing that happens.
Yeah, he thought they made shower curtains for a living, and he didn't realize they were a video game company.
They used to have Spy Hunter and Mike Tyson's Punch Out on it.
They did. Spy Hunter was an excellent game.
Yes, I love the music.
Anyway,
you could see, and you're gonna have me humming that after the show.
The original Final Fantasy VII forced me to buy a PlayStation.
That's how I bought a PlayStation. Same.
That and Soul Blade.
Soul Blade. Only fighting game I was ever good at.
Not Mortal Kombat.
The music and the cutscenes on Soul Blade. I was disappointed that Nintendo 64 didn't have cutscenes and all that junk. So I wanted to experience that. And those previews for Final Fantasy VII was like, I don't play role-playing games, but I want to play that.
Well, Final Fantasy VII literally changed the game on every level.
Brought the JRPG to mainstream.
Once it came out there, every game was compared to that. I mean, you mentioned Chrono Trigger, which was an absolutely amazing game, but when 7 came, that was like the standard. I mean, people were what-ifing. Remember when the Final Fantasy Secret of the Crystals movie came out?
I do.
But people were just hearing of a Final Fantasy movie. What were we all talking about?
The game that should have been a movie.
Yeah. Then Advent Children came out. Okay, we were slightly disappointed, but we were happy to get more. 7.
I wasn't disappointed. I enjoyed Advent Children.
Oh, no, it was
I wasn't
good.
disappointed either. They had a new version of the One Winged Angel, and I was satisfied.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
But you know what I'm saying.
Yep, I do. But the original Final Fantasy movie was such a departure from the games that I think they swung and missed on that one.
Was Chrono Trigger on Super Nintendo?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I played a game that was a role playing game or action RPG. But I can't remember if it was Chrono Trigger. It drives me crazy.
I'll send you screenshots later. You can tell me if that's the right one.
Lack of Chrono Trigger. You see, that was the only thing that stopped me from getting that Super Nintendo, the Mini, was because I was banking Chrono Trigger would be on it. I mean, Chrono Trigger was one of the few games that never depreciated in value.
Nope, and it was impossible to find after a while because I tried to get it towards the end of the bubble, and I found a copy eventually, but it was tough. There was a lot of stories. This was back in the 90s. It was hunting.
There's like 5 games that are on that level. I think you got Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VII, KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, the first one. Excuse me. I'm trying to think of any other games. Maybe one of the Dragon Quests.
I've never played a Dragon Quest, but I've wanted to because I know it's Akira Toriyama's art mixed with more RPG goodness.
In Japan, apparently, it's like illegal for them to release a Dragon Quest game like at the beginning of the work week because they just know that everyone's going to take that week off.
Oh yeah, they're huge. Just like what's the game series that Marth and Roy are from?
Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem, yeah. Same thing. Fire Emblem's big. They're over there too, and they're trying to push it over to the American markets.
So, I mean, there's certain games that, again, we're here talking about Final Fantasy VII, and it's on a pedestal for a reason.
Yep. So then we get the remake, which was a bazillion years in the making. In fact, it was released as a tech demo for the PlayStation 3 years ago that roused so much interest.
I never played Secret of Mana. Good call. Good call, Greta.
Secret of Mana. Nope, I can't say I've ever played that either.
I might have played Secret of Mana, and I'm thinking it was Chrono Trigger.
That could be. They're similar enough where you can make that mistake. But the remake. So it was released as a tech demo that I guess people. I don't know the story if Square was surprised that people wanted a remake or not, but anyway, it was just a tech demo at the beginning, and then slowly but surely it came together as this massive undertaking that now is clearly a part 1 in a 17.5-part series, which I think we're all kind of worried about. We'll get into that later too about the release methodology of this game, but taking what has been released standalone is what we'll be talking about tonight. And I told you what the deal is with the spoilers. So quick overview. What's it been out? About a month-ish? PlayStation 4 release out in a month-ish, depending.
A little more than it came, the second week of April, I think.
Right around Animal Crossing time. It's the same release day as Animal Crossing.
It was actually the same week of Animal Crossing, Doom Eternal. It was a week right after Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal.
Right.
And it was right in the middle of, we're all locked up in a house for a while. I hope we can get a video game.
Yep.
It was a blessing in itself.
So it's got huge pants to put on, right? It's got a big shadow to overcome in the original game, because as we've been talking about, the original game is kind of beloved by all, well, not all, but lots. And if you don't beloved it, it's because you're wrong. But the original game had a huge scope. It had a complex story without being Kingdom Hearts, right? Without needing
oh God.
I feel bad. I was thinking about this the other day. Kingdom Hearts, whoever is the story keeper, the storyboarding, the people that they go to for the lore, whoever keeps that for Square Enix is really underpaid, because if you have to have a 45-minute YouTube video to explain each game, Final Fantasy VII story was it was complex, but it wasn't like that. It was certainly something that you could follow.
Now, for me, the beginning part, you could follow the Midgar part, but then it just branched completely out. There's so many side quests, so much this, that at certain points in the game, the characters would get together and be like, okay, so this is such and such has happened. And Sephiroth, they did recaps at several points in the game.
Well, remember how big that game was. I mean, that was
Yeah.
3 PlayStation discs.
Right.
I
It took
mean,
me 70 hours.
and you probably skipped a couple side quests or 12.
No, the first time I played, I skipped a bunch, but then I got to the end and I was too weak to beat Sephiroth. So I had to play from scratch again, and I did all the quests. It was 70 hours both times though.
But I'm just saying, but it was first of all, when was the last time you remember opening up a place and you think, oh, there's a second disc. There's a third disc. You know?
To be fair, though, the third disc wasn't quite as meaty content-wise as the first two. It was kind of the leftover stuff. But yes,
when the game gave me the option to go to the third disc, I just did it, not realizing there was still more stuff to do on the second disc.
Yeah.
But still, so we've got this epic thing, world building, a lot of world building, and they built it in subtle and overt and subtle ways.
Yep, and a lot of the character development and world building is done through some of the side quests, which, again, I'm not going to get into this original story plots, but there's 1 or 2 side quests especially that were major undertakings that if you skipped, and I played through the original game probably 50 times or so. I skipped a lot of these like larger optional side quests a lot, and it a big chunk of the story is like there's certain characters that show up again that I totally fucking forgot about, that if you skip over this, you miss out on a lot. So I can see,
right,
what you're saying about the complexity being kind of what you make of it, right? I mean, if you dig in deeper, you're going to get more of it.
I didn't skip, but the first time I played, I didn't go to the right room at Nibelheim, so I totally missed Vincent, and I did not even know he was in the game.
Right.
Ooh.
But that's easy to do because there's certain characters that can join your party that aren't plot essential for the main story thread that you might never know existed. Now,
and
you're like, who's the story guy in the storyboard art? But I mean, I remember my buddy. For me, 7 was something I watched my friend play. I did not have a PlayStation until I was much older.
But that was YouTube before it was YouTube, right? You got to tune
into your buddy. I sat on his sofa drinking my Mountain Dew while he played the game. And of course, I would be coming in there, like missing chunks of the story. But you had the little chibi versions of everybody running around,
right?
And it was all mostly the little bit of dialogue. You had to read all that dialogue. And I always thought it was always funny when, everybody pretty much would run into Cloud and you just have Cloud running around, and then he'd stop and everyone would get out of him. And I'm like, what the heck?
I'm going to be honest, I kind of missed that because them following you so closely kind of got on my nerve in this game. Well, sometimes they'll be standing in your way.
Pros and cons to it all. But
sure.
We're talking, the house and how they executed certain things. But then, of course, you get in that rhythm. But of course, it was just reading everything at the time and then you had like the dumb little side quests, like the doing the reps, the mini games, the doing the reps, the climbing the stairs and climbing the stairs.
That was a joke in and of itself, though. It seems
like. Did you do that this time, Dave?
Huh?
Did you climb the stairs this time?
If I could jump off stairs, I would.
No, I mean on the game, on the
stairs. That decision, I did not take the stairs in that.
I did that the first time. That ticked me off. Then the second time I played, and I was like, I must have totally ignored the fact that you could take the elevator.
Well, that part I took the elevator. Yes, I took the elevator.
I did the stairs the first time, and literally that was like 20 minutes of my life. Because after about the 20 flights, or they start getting slower and slower, and then they start walking. And I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, I literally have to walk up all these steps.
And you got to watch it. You're not even getting the health benefits from it.
Right.
But still, that game had the cutscenes. It had the music.
Yeah.
Even in its own little sprite version of it all.
So let's talk about that. Let's transition to the next part. The comparisons between this and the original game. We're already sort of talking about it, but let me ask you guys this right off the bat. Did the characters sound like what you thought they sounded like in your head? Now, I know we have Advent Children, but if you're like me, it's been a damn long time since you've seen it, and I can't remember what they sounded like in the movie.
And I watched it in Japanese with English subtitles.
Okay, so that's even better. But do you think the character voice acting matched what about close enough to what you felt like those characters sounded like?
T, you go first.
I think they did. I always thought that Barrett sounded like Mr. T. So that they got that going on. And not so harsh. Well, he definitely gets better later on when he starts getting more relatable or more human. At first the dialogue they gave him felt like he was just annoying to me at first. But then like a little bit later, Barrett.
Oh.
A little bit later on, he started seeming more realistic.
Yeah, but, he was just an anger machine at the beginning.
Yeah.
Cloud sounds like somebody, and I'm gonna have to play the game again. While I was playing it, I'm gonna have to play it again.
You had someone particular in mind?
Yeah, it's a singer. But whatever.
What about Aerith and Tifa?
Aerith was perfect.
I liked her later on, like once we got to the
other parts that we're not going to talk about.
Walmart.
Oh, yeah.
Well, once you got the Walmart, but everything before that, she got on my dick on there.
Yeah.
I loved Aerith.
Aerith was a lot more plucky, especially with her voice acting, than I would have given her credit for in my head in the original game.
Yes, but I think it made her seem even less. I mean, she was so Mary Sue-y, but it was like at the same time, you're just kind of like you fall for her charm. Did you ever watch Daredevil on Netflix?
Mm-hmm.
Foggy Nelson. He annoyed the hell out of me, but I ended up becoming so endeared to him, and I realized though he never changed his character. It was just he became endeared to you.
Right. Yeah.
Aerith was the same way. That's over enthusiastic. I mean, when she sat there trying to do the give the high tens, and then the facial animations was so good. I mean, you could see that she was trying in her eyes, and I hope I'm not breaking the protocol, but one of the things that really, really hit the love on this game was the fact the English, their lips moved in English.
Right.
Yes, that was a lot of that went a long way for immersion. I mean, especially.
It was just so well done. And then, yes, also before you're reading all that dialogue. I mean, you talk the whole beginning when Avalanche at the very first stage, which was the demo. Damn. Okay. Avalanche was the very first stage, the demo, and instead of the little sound block, when you fight the Scorpion and all that stuff, and Barrett being a loud ass and Cloud's just being a merc. But you really got to. I mean, this voice cast was dead on perfect. From Wedge to Jesse. I mean, God, Jesse was. I was almost like feeling bad I couldn't play as her at some points. Just because I wanted to have her in the party. So yeah, the voice cast. My week, as weird as it is, the weakest cast for the voice cast for me was Sephiroth. I don't know why, but he just didn't quite click for me.
You know who played his voice?
Superman.
Yeah. But I think he was trying to
CW Superman, not Brandon Routh, but
he was mimicking what they were doing in Advent Children, I think.
I get that, but it was just kind of like.
And that's what I think I need to go back and watch Advent Children now and see how close they got. I don't even know. I should have looked up before I started the episode, but I'm not sure if they got any repeat voice actors or not from Advent Children. I don't think they did.
I don't think they did either.
But I wonder how close it is now, because Advent Children did well enough that I didn't notice any kind of like jarring differences in what I thought they sounded like. But but it's, you know, everybody put so much love into the voice acting. Even, I mean, main characters aside, there was so much heart in your side characters and your tertiary characters, and even the ambient talk, you know, from walking around towns and stuff. That it just it all sound. There was nothing that came off as that at least stuck out to me as being like kind of tacky or poorly done. Everything was at least, you know, was at least good. You know,
The kids, I think, do they actually get kids to do the voice? Because they weren't like annoying, like fake kid voices.
not sure.
I mean, that's how good it was. I was like, normally kids in those things are always like,
That one boy. See, maybe I'm too critical. Y'all make me feel critical.
No, that's good, but because I'm gonna look. I'm gonna tell everybody on two things about me before you start. One, I love this game so much, I stand the risk of gushing the whole episode. So I'm glad there's some counterpoints and some negativity. Two, I'm gonna say Eris instead of Aerith a couple of times because that's what I grew up with. Go on, T.
The first little blonde boy that he was up on a roof, and Cloud didn't respond to him when he's like, "Who's this guy?" I didn't like his voice acting job, to be honest.
You didn't like his voice, or you thought it was a poor
I thought
voice
the
performance?
acting,
Okay.
the poor performance. It felt stiff. Who's this guy? And then, I don't think we got to graphics yet.
Well, we can. I mean, I'm just. I got a list of
10
stuff I
out of
want to
10.
get to, but
Yeah, most of the graphics were good, but the game was struggling to keep everything rendered. Like if you ran up on people too quick,
yeah,
they look like PlayStation 2 graphics. And some of the characters, like after you get off of the first reactor mission and you're out in the street, there was one couple that was there that no matter how long you stood in front of them, their resolution never changed.
yeah, it did have some
God,
problems with popping.
you really took some time on this game. I didn't even notice that.
Like I was walking around talking. I wanted to hear everything they had to say. So when I walked up to those people, it was like, ugh. But after that, everybody else, I think the resolution came in. But those two characters, for whatever reason, even the second time I played it, they never got to high resolution.
Okay, the Moogle kid did annoy me. I'll give that. Good call.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into.
I like that. Amazing. I thought he was super duper sweet.
Yeah, the kid was. The music was kind of. I liked it, but it was maybe change the track, have the track a little longer.
I didn't buy that track. I didn't buy that.
But and then T pointed out before I got to this, there's a part in the game that you're high up, is all I'll say about it. And then T, before I got there, said that there was a certain background that didn't render right or looked really bad. And then I got to that point and I couldn't unsee it once he pointed it out. So there were a couple background, almost like picture files that didn't quite, and I think I've seen an article about this, that we're not the only ones that noticed, but there's every now and then, it's because the rest of the game is so good that those kind of stand out.
I thought it was on purpose because I was like, are they trying to make us nostalgic for the PS1 game? Because I was like, this is horrible. I thought they did it on purpose. They had to, because that didn't look realistic at all. Everything else was realistic, but
yeah,
the background just looked like Super Nintendo pictures.
But there's that. Let me see, anything else, comparisons to the original that we can talk about? Story we obviously can't get into right yet.
One thing I used to wish when I played the original game, I was like, I wish all the characters would look like the fight character model.
Yeah.
But I beyond got my wish because they look a million times better than those models.
Not only that, your customizations were always shown.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your Matria would be on there. With the exception of one cutscene, and that actually really, I don't know why that kind of bugged me towards the end of the game, where they're going through, you see Barrett with his original gun on the arm.
Yeah, I did notice that
That
yeah.
threw me off. I don't know why that threw
Well,
me
because
off.
you were so used to seeing your selections and seeing your materia
But
placed
they
in the
were in
right spot.
everything. So yeah,
Yep.
your matria colors, the weapons that you had on, any of the little side things, whether it be the vest, the earrings, whatever.
Are you saying it that way just because it's making
Yeah.
my eye twitch?
No, all of us are, because we didn't hear
Huh?
the names. All of us gonna have like different pronunciations.
But they
Like,
say the word materia.
yeah,
It's
but
materia.
just like
You're
Mako.
just yeah,
Like when
Mako
we
and
first
Mako.
played
Yeah,
it, we
yeah.
used to call
Oh
them Mako.
God, that bothered me. It was always Mako to me, like a Mako
Right. That's
shark.
the other. Yes, the pronunciations are a little butchered compared to what was in my mind. Sounds like
I
you all have the
always
same
said
thing.
materia because it sounds like material.
That's what
Yeah.
I thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just then, I can't even pronounce it the way you were pronouncing it.
Wait,
Matria.
the matria? Yeah. Anyway.
One of the things I look forward to in this game, you guys were talking about having the in game versus the movie versus the walking around renders are all the same in this one
Yeah.
for the most part. I'm sure there's some cinematics that are a little bit better, but it's hardly noticeable, right? I mean, they're pretty much the same. One of my favorite things is when a scene would happen, go down between our guys and some kind of antagonist, and there'd be back and forth and there'd be fighting, and you knew the shit was about to go down because the camera would go towards Cloud and then whip around behind Cloud's head and got into the fight stance. And it all did it in one swoop during the scene. And I thought, because that's when you got your hand on your controller and you're like, all right, I'm ready. I know it's going to happen. And then the camera swings around. And you're like, and then your menu comes up. And I'm like, okay, good. Let's jump into it. That was one of my favorite things.
My favorite thing was that about the fights is you saw the enemies there, and it would just start right up.
Yeah.
Like, the original game that used to drive me nuts. Like you're trying to get somewhere. And then,
Step.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me get there.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something mentally about being able to see the enemy, and I know a lot of modern games do this now, but just having it in Final Fantasy VII is a new thing. But being able to just to see the enemies on screen and knowing I'm about to get into a fight is a lot better than just almost getting to the ladder. And yes, the screen swirls and you get the battle music. And you're like, God damn it, I just want to go to the next save point. But there's a world of difference there mentally.
And how about Barrett
Did you
doing the
notice
victory
that they
song?
had
Barrett's celebrations.
Barrett did the celebration song. He's the one who did.
I like that. And I like that in the VR missions, they actually have the whole song.
True.
Yeah. That's the thing, too, is it's so streamlined, too, that after every single fight in the original game, you had to have a menu screen where it shows you got this and this much gil and these weapons and this. It just pops up on the side. You just look at it or not. Where game's rocking and rolling, which sometimes I would miss picking up things because it flashed up so fast and I'm not paying attention. But overall, I'm glad it was like that because that just saved with rolling along.
I will say this: if materia is so rare, how do people just leave it around everywhere?
It's not that it's rare so much as I guess it's kind of rare-ish, but it's also you have to know how to use it.
Right. I just thought it was always funny. It's like,
just laying random places. I always thought too some of that was the live stream was the Mako energy condensing almost like in certain spots. Like it's not like somebody dropped it. It's like like energy condensed right there and formed it. Where in the original game, maybe they're making it or something, but
in my personal canon, sorry.
So I mean, what did you all think of the combat in this game?
I loved it. That's why I played it 3 times.
Yeah.
I played.
Go ahead,
yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I can't think that there was a fight that I didn't. I enjoyed getting into combat every single time because it was that much fun.
Mm-hmm.
I had just played 15. And so I was kind of used to the real-time combat. And this still it had a little bit of a learning curve, especially being able to, do I want to switch my characters and then do their special attacks and things like that, or just pause it and have them turn-based their special attacks? But once I got into groove, holy hell, it's just like so intuitive.
Did you play the
Yeah,
demo?
I did not play the demo.
Okay. I was just curious because I felt like the demo really kind of tuned me into what it was going to be like. The demo set a good precedence. I think that's what a good demo does. And this one's like, here's a good taste of what you're in for so you can set your expectation when the game comes out.
Here's the thing for me. It's like, when I play a demo, I don't want to, because then it's like, okay, then I buy the game and I got to play what was in the demo again.
Sure. Right.
I wanted to go into this pure, like, let me be wowed.
Right. T, just so you know, your video screen has paused with you looking very thoughtful. There you go.
Jesse was giving up a lot of things like it was nothing.
She was just handing it over left and right, a little bit of everything. So the combat I think was definitely, it was fluid, it was fun, it was so much fun. And there's some little mechanics that took some getting used to, like you said, but once you got to know the rules of combat, you could then roll with it and then learn how to manipulate things in your favor later on, using more tools as they give it to you. Which I think if you just go in and if you just go in and button mash everything, you might get through a lot of fights, but there's some you are going to get your ass handed to you. But you got to come into it with a strategy.
Their quick attack menu is really, the regular attack menu is good. The quick attack menu is really nice. Jumping through the characters worked really well. I mean, if you didn't know what was going on, so you just watch somebody playing this game, you'd be like, how the hell are you juggling all this in your head?
Right. Katie watched me play it for a while and had that look on her face, like, because I'm going through all this shit like a magician, and she's like, that.
But that's
how I felt watching my son play 15.
See, you bring up a good point. This game has got what I would explain as quality of life improvements that aren't in other games that make things so much better for the player. Two of the examples I can think of off the top of my head is one, the L1 selection when you're using items off when you're not in a fight, you can use, this is not a spoiler, this is just gameplay, but when you're not in a fight, you can use items and healing materia. If you hold L1, it lets you hold the menu there instead of having to go in and reselect it every time. Because how much of a pain in the ass would that have been if you had to go into the menu every time to use one item over and over again? When if you just held it down, it stays right on your selection and you can keep using it over and over.
For me, it was just the
do what?
Like when you're not in the fights, that's what you're talking about?
Yeah, so you go into your menu.
The menu would pop up and I would just keep doing it.
Oh, well, if you hold L1 when you're at that point in the menu where you want to make that selection, it stays there. That menu stays up the whole time. You don't have to click back into it. So look forward to that the next time you play through. And the other quality of life thing is when you're finished a quest, you do not then have to go back to the quest giver. It says, would you like to return there? Yes, I would. And it warps you back to where you need to be. Oh my God.
I almost jumped up and did a happy dance when that first happened.
Yes. Yes. Little fixes and nuances like that really make a game streamlined. And then, like I said, having to get rid of the menu at the end of each battle and just showing it. And then one of my favorite things too, and I'll let you guys add yours, is that when you're walking around through town, I like to listen to dialogue. And it's annoying when you have to go back and figure out who's talking and what they said if it was something important, which ultimately none of it's really important, but it's world building stuff. Where this game has a constant steady flow on the left-hand side that shows you what everybody's saying as you walk past them. And I love that. I didn't have to stop running. I could just read through it real fast and continue on. But I've been talking enough. You guys pop in with anything you had to say about that. Awesome.
I would definitely say the world building aspect was and the immersion was so well done.
It kept you there, right?
It did. It really kept my attention. You really started to feel for sector 7, where everyone was at in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you had played the original one, and you're just like, oh God. I mean, it really gave you an emotional connection to the city, to those slums, to the different people.
Made you feel lived in. Yep.
It made you feel lived in. It made it feel alive. These didn't just feel like NPCs. You started seeing familiar faces from different sectors. Just because. I mean, that was so. Those little nuances. I did have one dumb complaint.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is any spoilery things. You never actually saw Avalanche headquarters under the bar.
That's true, and there's some plot I want to talk about there with that. Yeah, there is that. I thought that was weird, and I thought maybe that was part of my playthrough. I missed something, but were you ever able to go below Tifa's bar?
No.
Okay, I didn't know if I missed something or not. I only played through it once, so I didn't know if that was something I missed.
I was like, that's when I started realizing in the story. I was like, something's different. I was like, I remember being able to go down there.
Yeah, that was weird. I noticed that, and when there's a part when they go there, and I thought, well, the original game we could do that. I wonder if maybe it'll be later, and it never happened.
That made me feel really sad when Barrett was like, "We no longer need your services." And they're all celebrating, and you got to leave.
So I did finally learn how to play darts.
Yeah, the mini games too. Some fun mini games.
Did you get number one?
Nah.
If you do, there's a new cutscene that will happen later.
Oh,
okay.
I didn't know that.
But I'm just saying, I finally learned the rules of darts. I thought that was funny.
Oh yeah, I didn't know either. I was trying to play that on Grand Theft Auto 4, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Hey, Nico, want to go play some darts?
Isn't that funny what games teach you? Like Red Dead Redemption taught me liar's dice.
Actually, NFL Blitz taught me football.
However you get there.
Animal Crossing is teaching me facts about bugs and fish and all types of other creatures.
You see how we learn things. See,
but
video games are
what the fox says.
It does. He's annoying in this game. He sells you knockoff paintings.
Don't ever listen to that song. That's all I can say.
I've heard it. Yeah. So that's an excellent segue, Dave. The music of the Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. I mean,
if anyone says a critical thing about that music, with the exception of the Moogle Kid area, I just have one word for him. Let's talk.
The music was perfect. I like the way it seamlessly blended. If you went to another area, it seamlessly blended, and the fighting music transferred from the area you were in to the fighting version of it.
Yep. And that how it faded in as you got closer to a fight. The fight music faded in from the background until finally, once you got there, it was full rolling music, fight music, and you're like, man, it's masterfully done. It transitioned so well that I remember thinking, how the hell are they going to do a soundtrack with this? The way things intermix so much, but they did. I mean, they $77 on the Square.
That started with Ocarina of Time, but they did it even way better than that.
The original Final Fantasy VII soundtrack is one that I listen to all the time. I have, for people that say they like game music, I think T and I talk a lot about game music. Most of my soundtracks or playlists that I listen to at work during the day is composed of various game musics, with Final Fantasy VII music being among the top. I know the original soundtrack by heart, and I can tell you that the remastered tracks on here, because I remember thinking, in the time between it came out and the internet was a thing, and what the hell is that music website called? There's that video game Remix, OC Remix, the OC Remix website. Pulling tracks off of there and orchestral renditions and piano renditions. I thought, with all these different versions of the music that has been out since the game came out, how are they going to build on that? Because people have already taken it and modernized them. So I'm like, how is it going to be any different than these remixes that we've been hearing? And man, I'm so glad to be proven wrong, because it's almost like they took what they wanted to do, back in the original game where they only had the chip music and the boiled down version, and they made it what they originally intended it to be with this booming orchestral arrangement that just blows you away. I mean, there's such sweetness to Aerith's theme and Tifa's theme, and then the new characters get new themes, the new music. It's all. I'm just gonna gush. Somebody else say something.
Well, first of all, I mean, just as soon as when you started the game up, you started hearing the basic theme, and it was just like, but there was more to it. It wasn't quite that little synth, little mono track. It's like, okay, there is more substance. There's more bite to this, and then, it is that perfect immersion. I mean, I could almost listen to a dialogueless version of this game. And just
they also added One Winged Angel to the initial music when it comes on.
Well,
they found a way to pull in tracks from part of the game that's not there yet, because it's only until one part of the game. For anybody that I think everybody and their brother knows that by now, but this is not the full game. It's only the first part of the first disc of the original game, and they found ways to pull in musical tones and full out tracks from later in the game and make it make sense in the context of this version.
Though, why did they put that stupid Smashing Pumpkins cover in the commercial?
I'd have to go back and watch it because I don't honestly remember, to tell you the truth.
The Rat in a Cage song.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it actually says it in the video game commercial. This track not in the game.
Interesting.
I mean, it's a good cover, but it's like it has no purpose in that game whatsoever.
Right. Maybe there's some deeper plot meaning that I'm not connecting the dots to at the moment. So, all right, music is amazing. I'm really not to go into that. The soundtrack's available digitally and CD if you want to do it. The digital I guess both of them. The soundtrack is over 9 hours long total. It's 150 plus tracks.
Hey, Helen, we got plenty of content. Thank you very much.
Helen, we're not actually replacing any content. We're adding content. So scraping, that's not happening.
And today is Saturday. It's not even a normal day.
Yeah, this is actually a B-side. This is a bonus for y'all. This is a video that I
were alive during that time when you would turn on the CBS and then it'd be like special, and then Garfield would come on. That's what this is.
So we'll return you to Garfield after this. As far as the original game, two questions. Do you think, having seen this and a modern take on the story, two-part question. One, do you think the original game is a prerequisite to play and enjoy the remake? And two, do you think the original game is thought of more fondly through rose-colored glasses through the past, through fond remembrance of childhood?
Me? Yes. What, if I don't think you necessarily have to play the original games, but to get the full emotional impact, or to get the full impact of things, you definitely have to. It's both. To get the full impact, you have to play the original game, because some of that stuff going on, you will completely miss it. I was like, when the whispers were coming by, I was like, I don't remember these from the first game.
We'll get into plot points here in a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
I was like, definitely, if you didn't play the original game, you wouldn't get it. But it's like some shows that come back and they bring callbacks. Like, I guess Beast Wars. Once you get to the end of season 2 of Beast Wars, that ending wouldn't be so special to you. But you didn't necessarily have to watch G1 to understand what was going on.
Right. So you could like it, but you may not appreciate it as much.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with that.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I kind of look at it like the Voltron remake. When the guys made that, they said they were trying to make the Voltron that you thought you remembered.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
So, because when you try rewatching Voltron, that is like painful.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Voltron's
like
one of my
the
favorite
original
IPs, but the show is rough. The old show is rough.
And the rose colored glasses I think, is a big thing because again, like all the dialogue, all the running, I mean, I think you will enjoy playing Final Fantasy VII, but if you play the remake and then you try to go back to 7, you'll be like, I can't really do this.
I agree. You would have to play the original. It's not impossible, but I mean, I think you get more enjoyment playing the original first and then doing the remake. I
You'd
think you're right.
appreciate a little more the nuances, but I think if you're just coming straight up vanilla, like, okay, like I said, if you're under 30 years old, I keep hearing about Final Fantasy VII. Dude, just get the remake. You will love life. You will, because
I
as you
feel
said, that nostalgia factor, this is giving us that nostalgia factor. In our mind, the music is that much epic. Now we're hearing it played epic. The graphics were epic then. They aren't epic now. So we're getting those epic graphics now.
Right.
they made this game for people who played the original game. That's my final decision on that. Because I watched a video where one person was playing, they were doing like a live stream like this. But one person was playing the remake while the other person was playing the original game. The person that was playing the original game was making way more progress than the remake person because in the remake, they stretched it out to give more character development for the people who wanted to be in that world longer. And because they're taking that first part of the game and making it a full game, of course. But if you played the original and then you played this, you appreciate it more, I think. But the gameplay and everything else is so modern, it's not like you're missing out on the original game. It's so different.
I mean, we'll probably say this about 38 times tonight. This is a solid as hell game.
It is. And for being part of a game, too. I mean, it's definitely a to be continued. So we'll wrap up the non-spoiler section here with just saying for anybody that doesn't want the spoiler part and just wants our impressions, I think our impressions are fairly clear. But if you wanted to give it a final say, what do you think you guys would say about it?
I'm glad I bought it new. I didn't wait for a used copy. I am fully satisfied with my purchase.
So worth full price to you.
Worth full price. Worth Sony getting the money directly from me to fund the next game versus somebody buying it from Sony and then I'm buying it from somebody else. This is the type of thing where you just want to say, this is great. Here's more money. Make me more.
I think that the game was definitely worth the money that my son paid for it and shared it with me. So I enjoyed I very much enjoyed the game. I was going to say I enjoyed every minute. There were things that I didn't enjoy, like sometimes the transitions weren't seamless. Like if they'll be talking, then the camera moves back, and then Cloud will be standing there. I'm pushing up on an analog stick for like 6-7 seconds, and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And then after the 7 seconds, oh, now I can move. That was driving me crazy. And then there were certain points where they drug the story out a little bit. That was like, I wanted to get from point A to point B, and they put something in there that seemed like those random fights. Everything was stopping you, and I guess we'll get to that point in the spoiler part. So I'm going to end there.
All right.
So we can talk about that.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think this game is not perfect. That's where it detriments. If you played the original game, you know the parts in this game that some parts have been extended that are good, that you wanted more character development, you wanted to spend more time in these places. But other parts, there were at least 2 parts that I can think of off the top of my head that felt too damn long because they were trying to make a full game out of it. So that does exist, but that won't exist if you have never played the original. You won't know any better. So you're just going to think it's the way it is, which is just fine too. They're good sections. They're just, we know it's being drug out for the fact of making this a full game up through the stop point that they selected for this game. So I mean, definitely worth the full price for me. 110% worth the full price. Already bought the soundtrack. You know, I've got Play Arts Kai figures on pre-order. They got me. They were going to get me, but they got me. But it's amazing, and I worry about the release window for the next parts.
I'm with you on that.
That's what I'm worried about, is how will they release the next parts and how long will it take? Because when I hear that they're starting on part 2 now, I'm like, oh my God. Like, I know you guys have already like finished, you have character models, you got the game built, you just have to add to it now, but Jesus Christ, get moving. You know, we can't.
Did you play Dragon Age?
I never played Dragon Age.
I love Dragon Age. I love the first game. I love the third game. Second game is meh. But part of the whole idea of the game was it was supposed to have like the hooks from the first game. The hooks of the first 2 games were supposed to translate over to the third game. Like your character from the first game and your character from the second game were supposed to appear in the third game.
Oh, I got you.
The third game was on the next gen systems.
And there's no way to do it.
And we're almost definitely going to have that happen to us since we're so late in the PlayStation life cycle.
I am so worried about that because I was hoping that, when things start up, you start the new game and you'll have your character build from the previous game.
Right.
And be like, hey, I've got my stuff. I've got my spells. I've got my summons. I've got my my nerd stuff. I spent all that time building. And now I'm back at level 1.
Well, the good thing about nowadays is they have the cloud. They can
that's
send
true.
some type of signal up, and then you connect to the internet. And
yes, but
that's how the internet works.
But if this is, that's just going to cause strife with the cloud. I worked that in, baby.
You did. That's the wrong banner. So we're going to stop the non-spoiler talk there, and we're going to dive into spoiler talk now. So you all get your warning. If you don't want to hear spoilers, we're going to go full spoilers up until the end because Dave hasn't yet seen the end cinematic. So we're going to wait and have that talk about that at the end of that, and give Dave a chance to bail because there's definitely some shit that goes down at the very end of the game that we got to talk about. But I don't want to spoil it for him. So
I'm 60-40 about staying on that.
All right. Well, full spoilers going now. You've had your warning. 3, 2, 1. We're into full spoilers now.
Barrett is Eric's father.
And Barrett and Sephiroth actually has 2 wings. And we're like, whoa, where did the other one come from?
So I was thinking, what if Tifa was Marlene's mother? Because I didn't know the whole story with that. And I'm just finding out that Marlene isn't Barrett's daughter.
Nope. Well, yeah. So, and also I'm not worried about, we're full spoilers on the original game too. So, like, if you're stuck it out this far, you're going to hear a lot of stuff. Yeah. Marlene is Dine's daughter from his Barrett's best friend. So that'll all show up. And even that, like, they even call back to that because when Barrett's watching the cinematic in Shinra Tower, you get hints of the Corel theme when part of that story goes through there, and like his sadness and his remembering and his hate all coming out for Shinra. And they even give you musical tones that you may not even pick up, but they're there. It's just, this game was made by people that care about the original game. And I think that's what shows through and makes this better than it had any right to be. So let's talk. Let's go a little bit now. This is definitely a different game, right? There's story differences from the old game to the new game. Characters are different. Things unfold a little differently, and there's a reason for it. And in fact, I can't even get into the reason for it because that's some end game spoiler stuff. But there's definitely something different here, right? Especially, and you know right off the bat, the game sets it up as well.
We can get into that. As Dave should be, at the point Dave is at, you know why the Whispers are doing what they're doing.
Well, that's
Right,
true.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I was fuzzy as to what's the end cinematic and what you already know right going into that. So the Whispers. So right off the bat, and you talked about it in the non-spoiler section, T, when you said how they threw Sephiroth's theme into the opening.
Mm-hmm.
Off the bat, when they're doing that opening shot, just going through Midgar and watching, which again is beautiful. I mean, almost made me fucking tear up watching that. It was amazing. But when you start getting hints of One Winged Angel as you go through, something is different. Like, something is not right. And throughout the entire game, we get parts of the story that we don't normally get until much later in the original game. Something's weird here. And then in come the Whispers.
And every time somebody's about to say something they shouldn't be saying, the Whispers become.
Yeah. And you don't even, I don't know, I didn't even pick up on the fact that the Whispers were actively keeping the story on track.
Right, I didn't either.
I didn't pick up on
Whispers
that.
Re-railed Dave.
They re-railed the story in pure Dave fashion. That every time somebody did something different, they were there to correct it back to the original path of the original story.
Huh.
That's what they were doing. And right off the bat, when you first see the Whispers with Aerith, right? When Cloud bumps into Aerith right by the Loveless poster in Sector 7. She wants to come with him. She's like, let me go with you. And that's when the Whispers show up and chase her down the alley. Separates them, just like in the original game.
And they were like, with Jesse, they was like, break a leg.
Yeah. They went Tanya Harding on Jesse. And Jesse's like, I'm gonna go on the mission. And the Whispers said, the fuck you are, and get Cloud back in. So the Whispers were correcting the story the entire time. And I didn't put those pieces. I did not, the whole game, I'm like, what is the deal with these things? Like, because this is a big departure from the original game. And I'm like, why are these here? What is going on? And then
halfway through, before they definitely revealed it, I remember messaging you guys, and I was like, I have theories, but you guys are so behind. I can't talk about it. I was like, I figured it out, but then they expressly said it at the end.
I don't remember. Are the weird monk dudes, were they in the original game too?
Yes.
Okay, they were there.
I don't remember that. So
T said the same thing. And that's because I think that's a little bit to the limitations of the original PlayStation, is that they were hard to make out what they were. It was always like these they looked like monks in the original game, but they weren't. The only reason you knew something was up, is that you would talk to them and they would mumble something, and then Cloud would note that, hey, this guy has a number tattooed on his shoulder. That's the only, because the graphics are what they are. They couldn't really make that out, but yeah, they showed up a bunch to the original game. They were in Midgar and further out in other parts of the game. But with much more, this game is much more prevalent, and that's the other part of this game, is that they double down on a lot of plot points, and they expand on a lot of plot points from the original game. Like, okay, you could have gone the entire original game without ever knowing there was a war with Wutai, because you could skip all of Wutai, and the only thing you'd ever know about it was Yuffie saying that she was from there, and then it tries to get you to go back.
Life.
Huh?
Wutai for life.
For life. Ryder.
Yeah, I skipped the Wutai mission the first time I played it as well.
Yeah.
I never had a reason to go back there, but I think I was bored and I went there. Stole a lot of my materia.
Yeah. And that's when you find out that Don Corneo was still alive, because he was there. Which I guess there's no reason why he wouldn't be. I guess he got out of the slums in time, because in the original game, the last you see him is on his bed when he drops you into the sewers. This game has that follow-up part with Leslie that gives that further backstory.
Leslie was cool.
Yeah, so we'll get into that. I have that on the list, but the Whispers are definitely game changing. And then towards the end, there's you basically take on the Whispers as a boss, and I see a lot of people theorizing that the Whispers are the game developer's way of circumventing expectations. Because I mean, I guess I was thick-headed enough that I finally figured out something was up when Barrett dies. Like when Barrett gets axed right there, I dropped my controller. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Like, that's not supposed to happen. I played this game. I want to see the manager. Get him back. And then the Whisperer just straight up heals him. And I didn't like that because I'm like, well, then what? Death is meaningless then. Why did they do that? And then they say, because then they show you that's because they're correcting the story. So, and I think that was the game developer's way of, when you get to the end of the fight, I think there's a little meta here. Maybe I'm looking too far into it, but I feel like it's the game developers saying, guys, this is your expectations for this game, and I need you to kill it. Like,
I've got another idea on that one. Were you ever, can't remember, are you a Stephen King fan?
Yeah, early Stephen King, yes.
Okay, but do you know about the whole thing with the Dark Tower?
Oh, yeah, I've read all the Dark Tower.
So you know that at the end of the Dark Tower, it restarts.
Right.
But with slight different plot points to it. Like he
right.
keeps the horn and things like that.
Right.
Maybe this is something that keeps going over and over, and the Whisperers
keep the correction.
Like, or they're trying to put it to a certain direction. Like there's going to be an overall meta thing about that.
That could be, Dave. That could well be. That could be.
Stick around to the spoiler part.
Stick around to the end, Dave. Stick around to the end of the game. Got it, Dave.
Watch the end of the game, Dave.
Watch the end of the game, Dave.
In fact, if you wanted to just like cut away and watch the end cinematic on YouTube and then come back here, I wouldn't blame you for that.
I'm almost tempted to that fucking fight.
So you had enough time. You had enough time.
Did.
So that's how I felt about the Whispers. That was
that's
the game developers.
Revival earrings. Equip everybody with revival earrings.
He's not too late. You can still go to the vending machine, can't you? Before you go into the portal, because you got to go back into the portal every time.
Yeah.
So go to the vending machine and get revival earrings.
That's my biggest complaint. Every other time you stop the game, you go back to that last battle. You actually go back to the last battle, except that last stage.
Yeah. Now I didn't know that because I didn't die at Sephiroth, but you know.
I can't remember if I did, but I definitely died in the middle of the Revenant or the Whisper battle.
My problem is Rufus. He's my... Well, anyway. So characters that were added. Let's do a list of characters that were added. We got the Whispers.
Leslie.
Fake
Roche.
Yuffie.
Roche.
Fake Yuffie. Yeah, what was her name? I didn't have her name written down on here, but yeah. I can't remember. The one that was spouting all the misinformation about Avalanche.
What was the something of the slums?
The angel.
The angel of the slums and her daughter.
Her granddaughter. Yeah.
Fake Yuffie. Yeah, what do you make of Roche?
I'm hoping to see him again.
You will. I mean, you think that's just because if there's all these soldiers under Shinra's command, why didn't we see another one pop up that was special like this? Is that? Yeah. I think that I got that impression.
And was Zach new? That Zach was in the old game or the new one?
Zach was in the original game.
Zach was in the original game. Okay. He just came out of nowhere. That cutscene. It's like, why does this guy got a Buster Sword?
I can't remember what it is you've seen.
Oh, he didn't see the very. He didn't.
No, he didn't see the very end. But what did you see with Zach?
It was right before they went into the portal, and he was like outside, and then a bunch of soldiers appeared behind him, and he rushed them.
Gotcha. That's when he dies. And then in the original game, that's where he and in Crisis Core shows you the whole story there, where he gets gunned down by the Shinra army, and Cloud takes over his identity and his sword and his outfit, and then goes to Midgard.
Okay.
So yeah, Leslie was a great add-on and sort of counterpoint to Don Corneo, who was, by the way, in this game just a fucking awful human being. Like they took him and they ratcheted him up, 100%. But he was a lot of fun too. I think there wasn't, besides President Shinra, I didn't feel like there was any character that was like overly evil to be evil, except maybe Shinra and maybe Heidegger was like just
Heidegger.
evil. Yeah.
Heidegger, yeah. He
Oh
was
my God.
cartoon levels of evil.
But even Shinra, even President Shinra at the end made sense. Like I don't complain as much if the evil gene, like the evil bad guy, has some kind of plan that's beyond to be bad just for the sake of being bad.
And the Doctor was pretty freaking evil.
Yeah, I thought.
But Hojo's crazy though, so that's different. Hojo's insane.
I felt all of the Shinra people were crazy except the one guy who just wanted to fix the town up. He was the only normal man.
Right, but that's for a reason, right? We know. I unfortunately spoiled the old game because I filled in gaps of your memory. Well, you've forgotten again, it seems. So maybe you're okay.
No, I remember.
You talk about Reeve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reeve was the one.
I've forgotten that in the original game, it just flew over my head or I couldn't understand it. Zack altogether. When I played Crisis Core, and on Advent Children, and they were explaining who Zack was, I completely didn't remember any of that in the original game.
But you know why? Is because that's one of those side. It is kind of a side mission. You would have missed like 90% of that story if you didn't go back into the mansion basement in Nibelheim and look up and get that cutscene. There's a whole cutscene that you have to get that explains that. That's not part of the main story. So that's one of the things I was talking about that is easy to miss if you're just kind of cruising through and not really doubling back and exploring places.
What else? The all the oh God, what are they called? You know, like God, why am I blanking on their freaking names? They're the guys who ran the plate mission.
Oh, the Turks.
The Turks. Their voice actors were awesome.
Yes.
You could tell that there was backstory to them. Like beautifully.
I like Rude's voice.
Yep, real people that weren't like they were company men, but they just kind of got a paycheck, and they weren't like that was their in the original game the same kind of thing where they didn't like drink the company Kool-Aid. They were just doing a job,
But you could really get like the fact that there were stories before then, and there will be stories.
There's yeah, they were a good point of the original game, and they definitely transferred over well to the remake. And how about too, like maybe I missed this in the original game, but I did not know that Avalanche was bigger than that. So in this game, we find out that our plucky heroes in the beginning are just one cell of a larger resistance movement called Avalanche. Well, there are other factions of it that are in other sectors. I didn't know that. I don't know if that was a new invention for the remake or if that had always been that way and I missed that point.
I think it may have always been a cell.
I didn't remember that either.
Maybe.
I was watching a video that was talking about facts. They made it seem like that was always a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember being an Avalanche cell, but it made it definitely seem so much more that Avalanche is this big priority for Shinra, and it's only 4 people.
Right, sure.
But the fact is, not only, but I think this time they weren't just an Avalanche cell, but they were the cell that was a little too extreme for the rest of Avalanche.
Yeah.
That I thought was very cool.
Yes, the way they handled that with the sort of gray area that our guys take in the beginning of this game, like they're, the amount of damage that happened to the Sector 1 and 5 reactors when they blew in the original game was catastrophic. And this game goes to sort of smooth that out a little bit and make our heroes a little more good and our bad guys a little more bad. When you have Shinra executives targeting their own reactor to make the explosion bigger and exasperating the explosion, which then causes more character development for Jesse, who in the original game has a line or two about the bomb and feeling bad about it. And, the lives are on her, the blood is on her hands, but this goes much deeper into that.
Yeah. It makes you question whether you're doing the right thing.
And Tifa as well. Yeah. she
Tifa
really
was
digs
always
into it.
questioning it. That was very good development with her.
And that was another part that was a good cutscene that you get when you take the elevator in the Shinra Tower, is that you get her interfacing with just the everyday employees that are going to die if they, if Barrett has his way, he'd burn the whole building down. And these people just have families and just want to get a paycheck and go home.
Mm-hmm.
And that really calls into question the evils of this corporation when there's just people that may be complicit in the evil, but aren't bad people.
They just work there.
They just work there.
It's like, was it Clerks when they're talking about Return of the Jedi?
Yes, the Death Star.
The Death Star was still being completed. So you know what? There was just still contractors there. There were plumbers still there. They were just there doing their job. And all of a sudden, one day, they see some X-Wings outside the window and...
And it's funny in that scene, though, there was the contractor that walks in while they're talking about that, and he says that it's their own fault because any contractor worth their salt knows what they're getting into. You remember that? But then the counterpoint to that I thought is, counterpoint to that is it's the Empire, and when the Empire tells you to do something, I don't think you have much of a choice,
But you're a government technically you're a government. This is a whole tangent unto itself, but technically you're a government contractor then. So you think you're set.
True.
Technically, if you're working for the rebels, you'd be the terrorist group.
And Jedi Mindset has a good point that our cell of Avalanche was considered too extreme with the bombings, but then when the other Avalanche cells show up, they're full militia, full firepower, full equipment, like full hardcore, ready to rock. And it seemed like a totally different entity, which when they first showed up, I'm like, who the fuck are these guys? I didn't even realize it was Avalanche because our guys are so downtrodden and sort of scraping, like wearing armor.
This is a fully funded Avalanche.
Yeah, right. That was the difference. It makes them seem like more of the threat that they were presented as by the original game. Like you said, the whole Shinra going after Avalanche, which ended up being only 4 or 5 people. And then in this game, you actually see right. But going into that, Wedge, Biggs, Jesse. Now, Wedge and Jesse, and I said Biggs. His name is actually his name is not Biggs. It's actually Charlie Sheen. Because I'm convinced that whoever made this game was like, man, I really like Charlie Sheen. I'm going to put his likeness and his voice in my game because that was Charlie Sheen.
Wait. Wedge, Biggs.
Biggs
did look like him now that you mentioned that.
Wasn't that two X-Wing? Wasn't Biggs an X-Wing pilot?
Wasn't that's been a running Final Fantasy joke for years. Right. That they've used.
Who was Sid? Is he a Star Wars character?
No, that's a Final Fantasy thing.
Okay.
But yeah, every character gets their time to shine. Wedge gets his stupid fucking cats. But then too, like we see the Whispers intervene again, and we know that Wedge's fate right now is unknown. We don't know where he's at, or what's going on there.
He was swept up by fate.
He was literally swallowed up by fate. We don't know what's going to happen to him.
Right. They left that super ambiguous.
And I didn't even realize that till T pointed it out to me. But even beyond the characters at it, which I think I didn't see any characters that felt, over, like everybody gets a little something, and there's just enough side mission to flesh them out. Like, let's go into the Sector 5 orphanage that Aerith works with, and that has the lady that's in charge. That even that scene alone gives you some personality. But then later, when you're this is something that can be missed if you're not exploring. But then you're at the Honeybee Inn. And you go in the alley behind the Honeybee Inn, and there's the lady again. And you're like, well, and at first you're thinking, okay, this is Square Enix. They're using the same character sprite or character model for another person. No, it's the same woman. And she has this own little mini backstory.
Honeybee Inn, I hate watching it, but that's still the greatest mini game of the entire game.
Oh my God, they did the Honeybee Inn so amazing.
I smiled the whole time.
Yeah.
My wife was there.
Huh? The teacher lady, I didn't do the side mission. So when I found her in the alley, I didn't know who she was or what was going on. But then when I did all
Paid, so
side
you know.
missions, I was like, oh, I was like, what is she doing here?
She's getting her groove on.
Got to pay for school supplies, you know.
Yep. And then the fleshing out of like go back to Jessie with her parents and her being an actress and another throwback to the old game where she played the princess in the play that was featured in the original Final Fantasy VII that we crashed when we were at the Gold Saucer.
Mm.
So that's cool. And also another thing is we got to see the top side of the plate firsthand for the first time. Because all the first game took place underside and then Shinra Tower, where this game we actually got to walk around on the good part of town in Midgar, which we never got to see before.
Oh God, the plate.
They developed Jessie so much that I almost wanted Cloud to hook up with her.
I mean, I was hoping there would have been a way to hook up with all three, like some kind of, you know.
Hold
on. I found a video.
There's videos of people coming up with their own cutscenes of that. So
Cloud, so oblivious. Well, he wasn't oblivious to Jessie.
Dude, even Cloud wasn't. It
was driving me crazy. I was like, they're doing all this, and then he doesn't hook up with anybody. But if you do that one mission with Jessie right, she at least kisses him.
Yeah.
Which I didn't do right. I just saw the cutscene on somebody's video.
I got my smooch.
Yeah, I got mine too.
I didn't. I kept having below 60% health or something like that.
I still didn't get my pizza.
No, and that, you know, you dropped your plate, so you're not going to be able to have it. That makes that. I mean, yeah, knowing that was going to happen. Just I told Katie, I told my wife, like playing through right before at the end of Don Corneo's section in the sewers. I was like, I went after that play session. I went upstairs. I was like, I know what's going to happen in the story next, and I really don't want it to happen because now I'm 110 more invested in all these characters, and I'm like, I know what's going to happen.
Again, that goes back to what I was saying before. You're running around the slums, and it was just like, this is a town.
Yeah.
Alive. There's the orphanage. I saved the girl's cats. I saved Wedge. God, when Wedge was holding the cats and the plate kid. Oh God, that just. That hurt.
Yep. And Marl with her plucky attitude and her stick-to-itiveness and being a staple of the town. It's just I don't know what else to say about it. It's just you get so much buy-in from all these characters, and not there's some throwaway characters here and there, but it's as a whole together it all feels very lived in and very like when you're doing the side missions.
The Shinra guards, remember the ones where they said let them through and they weren't letting them?
Yes. Not all the Shinra guards are bad. Like this one guy's like, fuck it, let them go. These are people. Let them. Why are we not letting these people through?
So, that was a great scene.
Yep.
And then there's the weird. Then there was the guy with the then there's the kid with the Asperger's. The one who that basically the guy who's making you the matria.
Chadley, yeah.
That guy is like a Sheldon, I'm sorry.
He was cool though. I don't know if I was the fact that he was an item shop made me think that he wasn't going to betray you, but I was at the back of my mind I'm like, what is this kid's game here?
Right. I thought he was going to betray you.
And then the whole point when you're in the Shinra building, like there's the story went further to explain some things that were sort of once and forgot in the original game, like how the mayor ends up giving you a key just randomly in the game and in the first game. Like why he's like, okay, he hates Shinra because he gets steamrolled all the time and has no real power. Awesome. And he's just like, here, take the key because I hate Shinra. At least in this game, there's some context to it. Like, oh, he's Avalanche. Okay, well that makes sense, and that's why this other employee just like in the original game, the super secure building, and you come across an employee that's like, oh, you forgot your key? Have mine. Ha 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 ha. Like, no, that's not how it happens. And then the remake says, okay, well this guy's a secret, it's double agent too, and that it all helps to believability.
Because the mayor's awesome.
The mayor's awesome.
Hey,
And I
did you
did
pay
not.
that guy to show you where the person was, Dave?
I did not pay that dude. I was short on cash. I had it. I had enough money, but I'm like,
Oh, I paid him.
I did not pay him.
I didn't pay him. I was like, that's a lot of damn money.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll wander around this building and find this dude. Fuck it.
Right.
No, I paid it, but then you get more stuff. You also got
A
one
weapon
of
for Barrett. Yep.
yeah, you got Barrett's weapon.
I
Oh,
might
he,
need to do
he
that.
got good weapons.
I need to do that. I didn't like his melee weapons.
Well, what was cool though is once you get the melee weapons leveled up, you then got to use all the other weapons too.
Right.
His
That
final Big Bertha was I love Big Bertha, but his final weapon's still my favorite.
which one is the final?
It's like some kind of like plasma launcher or something.
I don't think I'm gonna have to pay that man. See what happens.
He gives you a melee weapon though, doesn't he?
Well, it's both melee, but still works because it still fires.
Oh, okay.
And it was kind of like Bertha's, where it fires, and then every now and then he'll just automatically charge.
Gotcha. I said I didn't pay him, so I never got it, so I didn't know what it was about.
Yeah,
I did not find a spoiler. I just paid.
The system where you have to actually use the weapons until you unlock the ability. That was annoying a little bit.
I didn't think it took that long. A few
Certain
fights where you
weapons-
you used it over and over again, and you got it. You unlocked it.
I liked it because then you learned how to use the skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, and acquiring those skills and holding them for other weapons was I know I thought that was a neat little. I thought that
One
was
of
a neat
those
little.
Sadly missions, I swear I've done it over and over again, but they won't say that I accomplished it to check it off. It's pissing me off because
I'll
I
be
know
honest.
it's has to be more than two summon battles. I only got Fat Chocobo and Shiva.
That's the only two I got.
I only have I've only have Shiva. I got Shiva. I've got Infrared, and I don't have the Fat Chocobo. I've got the other Chocobo.
Yeah, Fat Chocobo is one of the VR missions.
Yeah.
I never unlocked that one. I'll have to do that one on the second playthrough.
But then you fight Bahamut, but I never got him either.
Yeah, the Bahamut, I'm going to be talking out my ass here, but I think you have to unlock all the other summons, and then Bahamut is unlocked.
Neo Bahamut used to be my favorite.
Yes. No, Bahamut Zero. I always like Bahamut Zero.
What do you guys think that the fact you only get that summon every now and then? I mean, I still like it better than 15. Let me say that right now. Summons are a lot better than the summons in 15.
So I'll say that at first I didn't like that because I like to have control over when the spells come up and just have that as an option. I will say by partway through the game, I actually liked it because I found myself not wanting or even thinking about summoning until that bar appeared. And it was usually, the game had it dialed in where that bar appeared usually right when I needed it the most. So I think it was fine.
Yeah.
Certain battles I wanted it more because sometimes the boss would be so strong that the summon would get killed like right away.
Like that. What was that? The unknown thing. The unknown thing when you were doing the Barrett solo mission.
The experiment thing.
Yeah, that experiment. Yeah. I loved the Barrett solo mission, but
that felt like Resident Evil. That felt like Resident Evil.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great. I thought it was fun.
So they weren't shy about bringing in story from later in the game, right? Because we got a whole bunch of Cloud and Sephiroth that we would not normally get until later. And in fact, we even get some plot points and some cutscenes from deep into the game that just get flashed in that someone not on the know wouldn't know what the hell was going on. But then us that know the story was like, oh, that's interesting. They're showing me this already, you know? Mm-hmm. So, you know, there's definitely some plot tie-in there. And again, this more end of the game stuff that has to do with that. I have a theory about that that we'll talk about at the end. Lengthened character development, I have a point on here to talk about. I think we've kind of gone on about that. So they took the whole game is stretched out, right? It's all in Midgar. And we talked about this in the non-spoiler section, but there are definitely parts of Graveyard that felt like it went on forever. And I think I just said Graveyard is my point in the game where I was like, it totally broke the rhythm of the game. You're trying to get back to you just fought through the sewers. The plate's going to fall. You're in a fucking hurry. And then they got to go through the graveyard again, which was like 3 screens. Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 screens in the original game where you had to move some trains and you got past it. This was a whole subsection of the game.
And it was a red herring too, because when it showed Marlene in there.
Yes.
And that really didn't have anything to do.
I think it made Tifa worry about her.
Right, but she wasn't even near the graveyard. I actually thought something had happened to Marlene. I'm like, holy crap.
Right, you think they were saying that she got killed or something?
Exactly, and it was like, oh, nope, not really.
I think it somehow was able to take Tifa's memory because she knew of that story because of Marlene.
Right, but
okay.
I don't think its placement was in the right place. I don't think it was in the right part of the story. It was a good segment, but yeah, it didn't need to be there.
That part, the train graveyard part, and the part immediately after that. The part immediately after that where Aerith hath saved Marlene, that made me want to rip my hair out. Like every time you got a little bit further, something would fall down. Then she was walking all slow. Then she gets to the bar and things are still falling down. And she sits there and talks to Marlene. I'm like, get out of there. Get back to the people. It was driving me crazy. And then it had a heavy that, I don't know if I want to call it a glitch. The transition between moving and not moving, that really suffered right there, I felt like. It just drove me up the wall.
Yeah, you said where they stopped the cutscene and they wanted you to take control again, right? And you can't move until a few seconds later. It's like there was a little pause.
At that point, it was an overdrive on that section. I felt like I'm like, go, hurry up, get there. Then the whispers kept coming. You had to walk around the place.
Yep.
I'm like, oh Jesus.
Definitely some story padding, and it did show. But again, it was a balance between wanting to see more of some parts and then not really caring about seeing more of other parts. Like
some of the side quests were also kind of pointless.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about the side quests for a second because I didn't think that any of the side quests were so bad that it was detrimental. I thought the side quests were just kind of enough.
One side quest.
Talk about it. Go for it.
I skipped it the first time, but when you go into that clothing area, I don't think I ever went into the clothing store. And then you have to, I forget the guy's name, the one that likes Tifa. Johnny. You gotta that whole side quest right there. That took forever. It was like never ending, and they named it "The Party Doesn't Stop" or something like that. And it didn't stop. That was like hours, I felt like.
For me, finding the damn cats. I hated that side quest.
That took literally 5 minutes, and like they all go running back, and you're done. That's all there was to it. I mean, I get it. There wasn't much to it, but
I like that one because I like Cloud's reaction. It was my reaction. Like
right. I think they did on purpose.
And then there was the finding the honeybee pass when I was in Walmart for the tailor. Oh, that was the one you're talking about. The Party Doesn't Stop. Yeah, that one. That was just, oh my God.
I don't think I did that one. I think I took another branching path because the Walmart market's got several paths you could take.
Oh, well, actually, a lot of the Walmart side quests were just stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, giving the guy medicine, finding the sick people in Walmart. That was another one I didn't like.
I saved that one when I realized you didn't have to complete it right away.
No, I didn't see that one. Maybe I missed that one.
That's actually part of the Party Doesn't Stop, actually. Yeah. Yeah, that side quest was absolutely horrendous.
They tell you before you drive yourself crazy getting the medicine, they tell you that you can come back. And I was so thankful for that.
So
But I
okay,
will say,
so
Walmart. I'm tempted to get a hand massage though, because apparently that's supposed to be really good there.
yeah. Did you pay for the premium one?
No, I only got the medium.
Oh, the
Do
premium
the
one goes to
premium
town.
one. I did the medium one at first too. I think I went extra cheap. But the premium one is like, whoa.
Yeah. Let's talk some of the fun things, like with Walmart at the Coliseum fights. Oh my God, those were fun.
So that is another good transition, Dave, because we're having a good talk, and I want to keep it on pace. So my next part is talking about boss battles, the Coliseum, and some of your favorite fights.
When I went back to the Coliseum, it taught me how to play with a single person. Because I kept dying and dying until I realized, let me block. I mean, do the attack, block, let them attack me. Then I do the attack, block, let them. I was like, that's just like the old game.
Coliseum, I loved everything, especially the Hell House.
The Hell House, my favorite boss fight.
Came out of freaking nowhere. Then there's the little dude with the kitchen knife.
Tom Berry.
that thing.
I was ranting to T about that when I got to him because he didn't kill me, but God damn it, he came close.
That was one of the first times I had to truly restack my Matria to fight him. Rufus pissed me off the most.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones that pretty much got me to nearly throw my controller at the TV. I finally got the pattern of I just had to save that freaking limit breaks till I got to till after I killed the dog.
Yeah, the dog should have been right.
But didn't use the limit break on the dog.
No, right. Full out attack on the dog and then get to whittle Rufus down.
Rufus, yeah, bro. Rufus, I spent literally nights fighting that one fight.
So if you remove,
if I messed up one time, he'd destroy me because it's like, oh, I hit you, and now he's going to shoot me.
Yeah,
and you recoiled every time something happened to you, no matter what. You had to, you always got knocked back. You had to deal with that.
And he would knock me out of spells. He would knock me out of attacks.
Right.
I mean, the Turks didn't. The Turks were tough, but even they didn't tick me off that bad.
So I only, if you remove one random encounter that happened later in the game when you're going through the different labs in Hojo's lab, there was one fight with the dogs in the cages that I kept dying at. If you remove those where I died there, I only died twice in the game. Once was Airbuster, and the second was Abzu. So I had the fighting dialed in pretty good, but the Hell House, I was walking through the collapsed Sector 6 highway, and I remembered Hell House from the original game, and I kept thinking, man, where's Hell House? Is Hell House going to show up? Because that was such a bonkers boss or at random encounter in the first game. I thought there's no explanation. Like it's just it's a dollhouse with a robot, the murderous robot built into it. We don't know why. We don't care why. It just is. And he shows up as a random encounter, and he never did. And I was really disappointed. I'm like, damn, they cut Hell House. He must have been too crazy for this game. And then the Coliseum hit, and that floor opened up, and the fucking house came up from the bottom, and I cheered in my chair. I'm like, it's Hell House. Yes.
Did you write in your notes about that whole Coliseum part where they were spectating?
No, but
they were actually spectating everything that went on.
I was just about to talk about that, but go ahead.
I was going to let you do it.
Oh, I was just going to say, I really started noticing it when you would cast a spell and they're like, oh, I don't know, that's a good idea. Or they'll say, that was really ineffective. I'm like, thanks, guys. And then the house, one of its attacks is it throws chairs at you, because what else is a house going to do? And one of the announcers was like, oh my God, the chairs. Why does this house have so many chairs? It's so good. The commentating, I wish every fight had commentating like that. What were their names? It was
I could almost
shit.
do a side game of just fighting in the Coliseum, you know?
Scotch and Koch. That's what their names were. But
That was. Go ahead.
I was just going to say they turned a lot of regular battles into boss battles. The Hell House, the Eligos, the in the graveyard, the dude that was riding the horse, that was just a regular battle in the original game, and they made it a boss battle in this.
That was actually a pretty good fight.
That was a good fight. That was hard. And then the I don't remember the guy's name, the buzzsaw dude, the snake thing that was made of like the with the saws on it that you fought in Hojo's lab.
I had trouble with that one. I did have some trouble with that one a couple of times.
Announcers will talk about your summons as well. Yes, the Jedi Mindset talks about how the announcers will even comment on your summons. And how cool was that too? Like when you finally did cast a summons, and the different things the characters would say, like Cloud would throw his materia in the air and say, "Have fun," and then would, I'm like, I don't know, stuff like that, man. It just kept it real and kept it.
I like the way they talk to each other in the battles too, and the stuff they said after you beat the battle. Just like that.
Yep.
I like the epic. I liked right before the summons, would disappear. Their little last epic attack.
And it was normally their named attack from the original game too. Hellfire and Diamond Dust, and that's all I can remember right now. But that's what the attack they would cast in the original
Stampede of Chocobos.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the end.
Just hit me.
So, are you sure? Because I don't want to take it away from you.
Yeah, I will. I'll sign a waiver.
Okay.
Well, you got to see it anyway.
You got to see it, but you hit the nail exactly on the head. T and I were talking. Okay, so let's back up a second. We're gonna go. This is the final warning too. We're gonna talk about the very end of the game. So if you haven't finished the game, you've been warned again.
That Whisper Arbiter was freaking cool.
Yes, and did you realize too when you were fighting the Whispers who you're actually fighting? You've done the fight enough times now. Each Whisper Arbiter or each Whisper boss has a very unique fighting style.
Right.
One has blades, one has guns, and one uses their fists.
Really?
Does that sound familiar?
Yes. Which I also say, I turned my Tifa into Wonder Woman.
Oh, she was your murder house. She was your go-to.
And I could heal. I loved her. I got my Tifa leveled up beautifully. Okay, so go ahead. Yes.
So this game, it seems to me, and I think T would agree, this is not a remake. This is a sequel.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay, so they're
both Aerith and Sephiroth seem to know that the game that the story events have happened before. And the ending of the game is very much Sephiroth saying, like, we've been down this road. You have a choice to make, Cloud. And some crazy shit happens. The end of the game, I feel bad saying this, Dave, but okay, you signed the waiver. At one of the last cutscenes in the game is we see as our characters are leaving Midgar, the scene cuts to Zack and Cloud after the Shinra army attack, and Zack is still alive, and he is carrying Cloud still arm in arm, both in uniform, to Midgar. So in this version of the game, that timeline, that offshoot, that reality, Zack lives. Zack is alive. And we know that he's alive in a different reality because all through the game, we see what was his name? The Scamp? Is that what his name? The dog? The Avalanche cartoon?
Yes.
Yeah,
Stamp or Scamp? Whatever. The dog.
Stamp.
His nose.
In the cutscene, we see it's one of these effects where we have the cutscene of our characters walking out of Midgar, interwoven with the past scene of Cloud and Zack moving to Midgar, and they pass each other. But before that happens, a bit of dust and wind kicks up, and we see the cartoon dog on a piece of trash float past Zack, and it's a different dog with the same cartoon. very alternate universe style. So there seems to be a moment, huh?
You think this game, Aerith will take a step to the left?
So my theory, go ahead, T.
There are some other characters who died who turned out to not be dead anymore.
All of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like they're all alive.
They didn't show Wedge.
That's true. But last we saw him, he was alive.
But Biggs is definitely alive in that Aerith's mother's house. Yep. And on the dresser, Jesse's gloves were there.
And headband. So that we have to, and that I'm not so sure about because we don't see Jesse. I guess that implies that Jesse pulled him out, maybe. Or it implies that he recovered some belongings from Jesse after she died.
Now, Jesse, God, her death.
She may not be dead.
Oh, God, but her that thing with her.
Yeah.
So you get to hear my last words. Oh, my God, that was like...
What she was acting.
So, and the game makes it a big point that once you kill the Whispers, all bets are off. Now that the entity in the Force that's keeping the game on track, keeping the story on track, is gone. And now, and the very last line of the game, what does it say, T? It says, it says the unknown journey will continue. The unknown journey.
If Barrett dies again suddenly, he ain't coming back because the Whispers aren't there to save him.
Right.
It's the Kelvin universe.
Right. The Star Trek, right?
Yes. From this moment on, our fates have changed.
Yes. And did you guys catch the Easter egg of the Shinra kid? I did see that, and I thought that was pretty cool. So we got a whole different ball game here. What's that?
I didn't finish Final Fantasy X.
Wow. The all bets are off. So when the Whispers died, we're and the end cut scene again. You when you get there, you'll see it goes totally bonkers. So when you boil it down, the game ends as the first game ended, with them leaving. I mean, as that part of the game ended, with them leaving Midgar searching for Sephiroth. That stays the same. But there's so much in the air. So many people are alive that used to be dead. And is that, again, we don't know if that's an alternate timeline. And then Sephiroth says to Cloud in their moment after their fight, he says, you have 7 seconds to decide. And we don't know what that means. Don't know what that means. There's speculation on what that means, but we don't know. Now, my theory is that if Aerith and Sephiroth know how things are going to transpire, Sephiroth especially, what happens in the original game that causes Meteor to fail, if you remember.
Which Meteor was in one of the, when they were looking at the alternate futures, I remember seeing the Meteor coming in.
When they're at the, when they're in the building, you mean? Looking at the, yeah. So, well, I'm asking you if you remember either of you, what in the original game stops Meteor from hitting?
The life stream.
The life stream with the white materia. But the white materia wholly was not enough because that Meteor started to break through the white materia power. And then the life stream kicked in. And who was directing the life stream to deflect the Meteor? Aerith. Why was Aerith in the life stream? Because Sephiroth murdered her. So now I think this Sephiroth is going to go out of his way to save Aerith, and someone else is going to be at the end of that sword. I think he wants to change it. He wants to go back and he wants to make things different this time because he knows that's why he failed, because he made a mistake putting her in the live stream.
And they have to kill him in such a way that he doesn't go into the live stream.
Right. Well, he was going to be there when Meteor impacted.
You know, just as long as Sora doesn't suddenly appear, I'm okay.
Well, that's what a thing I was alluding to earlier is. I hope this. I'm by the way totally fine with this. I think this is awesome. Like, as long as they hit a lot of the main story beats and they can diverge here and there, I'm in for the ride. But
hope they bring the weapon in.
Weapons are one of my favorite parts of the original game. Yeah. I had a point, but now I forget. good stuff. I'll go back and rewatch it and be like, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. But that I think that there's going to be some differences. The game all but alludes that, and I think they literally have you beat up your own expectations when you fight the Whispers. That's what they're trying to say. Like you need to understand that this is not the same game anymore, which is cool. I'm all right with that.
Well, again, it's like I was talking with the Star Trek movie. We need to accept our fates have changed. I mean, that was basically Abrams in his script saying, "We're changing shit. Deal with it."
And that's the thing too. Is like, and that's the same goes with Star Trek. Like, this can be different. The original still exists. The original still exists, right? So if you want the original story, go play it. Go play the original story. Like, that's why this is. It's sort of like, now that you know that, going back and seeing parts of the game now that were expanded for character development, was that expanded because we wanted more time with these characters, or because you have now alternate intentions through the story with these characters now? Because that's what I now have myself questioning, what the intent is. Either way, it still works out that we get more time with these characters, but now
let's hope that Square Enix knows what they're going with those characters.
Well, that's the other thing too, is with the release schedule on this, it worries me.
I was giving you a segue.
Yeah, no, right. I'm with you. I just it seemed to me like this would, if they released them in the same size chunks, you can't spend as much time in every town as we did with Midgar. And it seemed to me like this would be part 1 of 4. I think this probably seemed like, at the pace they were going, this would probably be a 3 or 4 part game.
Like I said, I hope it stays in the PlayStation 4.
But it won't. I mean, it can't.
No.
PlayStation 5 comes out in December. There's no way.
Then I hope they don't give us a Kingdom Hearts scenario.
And I think that's probably what you need to buckle down and assume that's going to happen.
Because what happened how long between 2 and 3?
Right. So that's
I hope
the thing.
they're already making it right now and they never stopped making it.
They also said that they were thinking about possibly going to smaller episodic releases, where they would, instead of doing this giant chunk of a game at $60, they give you a $20 episode as they make it. Like, just throw them out. And I feel like that'd be choppy, man. I don't know.
That would only not be choppy. That'd be like, okay, here's your $20 DLC. Here's your $25 DLC. As inflation goes up, it's like, damn it, I just want to buy a game.
Right. And at the end of the day, like, and this was what was this, 40 or 50 hour game as it stands. I love Final Fantasy VII, but if I want to replay this entirety when it all comes out, I really don't want a 400-hour game. I just don't want to do that. You know, like, that just sounds awful to try. That just kills replayability. But, you know, if it's quality stuff, we'll see.
It's not just replayability, though. It's also accessibility.
True. Right.
I mean, I don't want them to be making a game for people who started it a couple years ago. Well, again, that's the Kingdom Hearts 3 scenario. You know?
And I hope the story doesn't get to be like that, which is why I mentioned Kingdom Hearts specifically, because that story is batshit crazy.
But then, of course, and then you have... Again, I'm serious. I'm trying to remember. How many years was it? 5, 6?
Between 2 and 3. I don't remember. I stopped playing after 2, and I never played any of the individual.
That's it.
I never got off the initial area on Kingdom Hearts. For some reason, it just drew me up the wall.
But that's the thing. I mean, Kingdom Hearts started in PlayStation 2, and the last one came out 2 years ago?
Right, PlayStation 4.
So.
And that's what's going to happen. I mean,
it's a 10-year period for 3 games.
We can say we hope it doesn't happen. It's going to happen. But the only pushback I'll say there is that. What's that?
Didn't they have 2 3DS games?
Yeah, they had a bunch of side games and mobile games, and the only thing I'll say to that, Dave, is that those are like, this is one game chopped into bits. Those are actually sequels, so that may be a little different. You know, they're reinventing the games every time. Where this one, hopefully, they don't have to do that.
I got enough gray hairs already. I don't want to be completely white and have arthritic thumbs when I finally get to beat this damn game.
Right. I don't want to have to be deciding whether or not I'm going to play the next part of this game or going to my son's high school graduation. Like,
That's you know what? That's a legit statement right there.
legit worry. Comments a little bit. Sephiroth is doing what Xenohort was doing, time traveling. I don't know if it's time travel as it is jumping. Maybe they're jumping realities or living through some kind of loop. Like when you said Dark Tower, I mean, that's why I started laughing. I'm like, he nailed it right on the head of what I was thinking about how this story is playing out.
Well, and it's funny that actually worked with more. I don't know if you played Mortal Kombat 11, but that's actually what part of Mortal Kombat 11 is about too.
I haven't played any of that yet. Sephiroth Sephiroth is dealing with the same mind-bending sickness as Cloud. He was a good guy before the fall in the mansion. Well, that's sort of he was. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of backstory there too.
I blame Sephiroth's madness on the fact that he uses an extreme conditioner on his hair, and it actually affects the vapors. Actually affect his sanity. There's no way.
Cloud,
Cloud just has the gel. He just uses the gel.
Yeah.
That's why he's limited.
But I think Sephiroth, they already put it out there.
Someone told him that the best shampoo to use is Prel, but since he's Japanese, he can't say it, so he went insane trying to find it.
That's awesome. So, and they also don't ignore Crisis Core either, because there's advertisements for Benora, which is the town from Crisis Core, through the game. So there's callbacks left and right to the compilation of Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, it's where the Genesis was from. The guy in red.
That's a tribe on Horizon Zero Dawn.
It might be calling back to Horizon Zero Dawn then. All right. Well, that's pretty much all we'll get to. If you guys have anything else to say, the only thing I want to add before we close it out is that people were complaining that Tifa got a breast reduction for the remake. I think she looks great, and any breast that she got reduced was given to Scarlet. What happened there? What?
Oh, and if you're a wrestling fan like I am, the current AEW Women's champion Hikaru Shida is currently wrestling in Tifa themed gear.
Oh, I saw that. That came across my Instagram, I think.
Is she wearing shorts?
What if
I didn't know that people was wearing
suspenders. And suspenders. She's rocking the look. So
this could be a redemption story for Sephiroth. Maybe. He still looked a little crazy in my eyes. He looked a little batshit crazy still. So, but anyway, okay.
Stays good and then hooks up with Aerith.
Full on wrap up, guys. Anything else you want to add before we call it? This actually went a lot longer than I thought. We had lots to say. I like it.
It was fun. And yes, she did get her kendo stick back, Jedi. You have to watch the wrestling to get that one. But
I got you. I'll just go check out her outfit.
I liked it. It was good. My nitpicks, I mean, the little technical issues were just nitpicks at the end of the day, but I still enjoyed everything. And I couldn't stop playing it. And
most of what you were talking about was could be updated with a patch. So maybe they'll fix it.
Hopefully. I was wondering, was it because I was using the PS2 Slim and not a Pro? Some people said they didn't notice what I was talking about, but PS4. They probably weren't as impatient as me.
I didn't even notice half the glitches you guys were talking about. I was just really enjoying the game.
Okay.
So
that's it. We'll take T's yawn and Dave's final words is it. So we all really liked it. Go play it. It's definitely worth your time. And we guys hope you enjoyed it. We were really, the only thing we set out here to do is just talk about it. I've been wanting to talk about it. T was dying to talk about it when he beat it early. I've been dying to talk about it since, waiting for these other guys to finish. Jordan's still kind of going through. So we just decided to pick a hard date and go with it. So we wanted to talk. We hope we entertained you guys in the process, but we had fun and wanted to talk about it ourselves. So
give us a like.
Give us a like, but watch the main show. Please catch, if you like this, Figure Actions, more of this useless garbage banter between us every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have this crew and collective here just kind of doing our thing and talking about it. We don't typically talk about video games on the main show, so we decided to do a separate B-side for it because I think it warranted it. So you guys, thank you for coming out. I hope you all have an amazing evening. I hope you play some Final Fantasy VII and listen to those wonderful tunes. See you guys.
Do, 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 do.
Fresh Prince of